Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to help you scale your business, become a better leader, and push yourself out of your comfort zone into something which is going to stretch you. We really hope you enjoy these shows, and we really encourage you to like and share with your friends and network, which is only going to help us get a wider audience and improve our industry. I'm super excited to announce that in 2023, we're going to be announcing new partnerships, some digital courses, some rebranding, and your opportunity to be coached by one of our many industry leaders, experts, or coaches. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I am excited to be joined today by Charles Johnson. Charlie, how are you doing today? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. It's good to be with you again. Doing great. Looking forward to 23.
Oh, well, I've obviously known you for, I'm trying to think now, probably at least 8, 9, 10 years, somewhere in that range. And here we obviously has some businesses back in Arizona, and you've got a thriving business now in Arizona. Tell the audience a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, sure. I got into business about 20 years ago, and primarily in construction industry. And my wife decided she wanted to settle down in Arizona, so we moved out here. Didn't know anybody. Opened up a company that was going to be primarily an irrigation company. And the market I was looking at was the golf industry. And so I came out here. It required a landscape contractor's license. So those are really my working history. But I went ahead and got a landscape license and began to work and do irrigation work and do some landscape design and installation, primarily in the residential side. And as the years moved on, I did all construction, and I started my first company in 2004, ended up selling it in 2006 to an architect that wanted me to run his construction for him. And after about a year of that, quickly remembered why I wanted to go into business for myself. We split ways, and I started my current company, Outdoor Systems Management, in 2008, just before everything took a big nosedive.
And, great timing.
Yeah, it ended up being really great timing. Fortunately, I had, made out with the sale of the previous company, was financially in a good position to not necessarily have to work, but had to work. And so I was able to start OSM small, and I had a client base that had been with me and worked with me from the previous years that if they were moving and doing anything, I had a good stream of work that was coming in, enough to keep me and another small team together busy. And as the years progressed, we continued to grow, and in the size of the projects that we were doing, did more into the commercial side of things. And then we started getting into some of the city contracts, started getting into some of the federal contract side of things, private commercial as well. So the residential kind of began to fall off as these more public and private commercial projects grew in our portfolio. So still very, very much a construction company up until 2015, I would say 2014. 2014, I ended up getting pretty sick. Ended up having some issues for about a year. And at that time, I was still primarily a sole proprietor. It was me, doing all the work, and I would utilize subcontractors to handle some of the trades that were a little bit too big for me. But it was a really nice business environment for me because I didn't have a bunch of overhead. I didn't have a huge team of staff that I needed to keep going. A lot of administrative staff and a lot of design staff. I just had some great partnerships with other companies and other providers that would fill those needs whenever they came up on our projects. And in 2000, 14, I got sick, came out of it in 2015. And one of the things that I realized at that time was that I really don't have a business per se that is sellable, that is scalable, that is something that would operate whether I'm around or not. Long story short, if I didn't work, the company wasn't moving. I was the company. And at that time, we had 4 kids, still do have 4 kids, my wife and I. So there's 6 of us. And that was a big problem. There was a big realization going through that personal trial that left my family pretty exposed, aside, life insurance policies, and those are all nice. However, they're short lived. And with, the rates the way they are, young kids in the house, a couple $1,000,000 isn't going to go very far. So I decided in 2015 that I wanted to make a push and create a company that was going to be able to run itself without me. Eventually get it to the point where I could step out of it, and the business continued to go on a daily basis and provide service to our clients and earn cash flow for the company. So if something did happen again health wise, there would be continual cash flow for the family to be provided for in more long term basis. So I started growing in 2015 and got in some contracts, very construction based, no maintenance in the company whatsoever. Small services, repairs and stuff like that, but primarily for clients. But it wasn't a core piece of our business. And as we grew in 15 and 16 and 17, got in some contracts with some clients that weren't real great, still, cutting teeth, really getting into deeper water, so to speak, and financially put us in a pretty heavy bind. At 16, 17, I think we combined lost $900,000, I believe, between those 2 years.
Wow, that's
and
tough.
So it was, at that time, I think we had about 22 employees. And so I was really on the fence trying to figure out, did I do the right thing? Am I going about it the right way? Am I, who are my clients? I went into it, I think, looking back on it with a really broad stroke, saying, okay, these are all my clients. Well, they weren't all my clients. Some of them were good clients, some of them really bad clients. And, through that period, that's part of what got vetted out is who do we want to do business for and who do we want to do business with? And I think more importantly, why do we want to do business with them? What are their payment terms? What are their, what's the cash flow look like coming from them? And so we went through that process. Fortunately, by the grace of God, in 2018, we had a great year. I think we netted a little over 1.1 that year. And we were able to kind of right the ship, so to speak, still carrying some debt because I didn't want to burn all that cash. What we ended up doing in 2019 is taking that cash, realizing that a company that's only a construction company, and this is really a realization that you shared with me, Robert, at that time, was the value of a construction company versus the value of a maintenance company are, moons separated from each other. The numbers you were giving me would, the 2 times, 1.5, 2 times multiplier in a construction company plus assets. And a maintenance-based company is looking around 8, 9, possibly 10%, depending on that, and plus assets. So that was very intriguing to me. And the other thing that was very intriguing to me was the cash flow aspect of it. In construction-based business, it's a constant grind to make sure that your monthly cash flow is where it needs to be. And it always had this feeling of you're working yourself out of a job, because that's really what you're doing in construction. You're always working a job to its conclusion.
Yeah.
Right. And when
And trying to fill the pipeline.
Yeah, you got to go find another project to keep the cash flowing. So that was a very tiring grind as well. And it disallowed us to be as selective with construction projects as we would like to, because we needed the cash flow. We were more apt and more prone to accept jobs at lower margins, which was part of the reason it got us into a little bit of financial situation at the offset. So in talking to you, and after 2019, we took that cash and we opened up a few more branches. Or a few more divisions, sorry. We opened up an arbor division, a maintenance division, and a true water management division to go along with our construction division. And the goal for 2019 was to replace all the corporate overhead, all the corporate administrative expenses with reoccurring cash flow from the maintenance division. And had a really good goal in mind, had a really good plan in place. And I'd say we got about 65 to 70% of the way in 2019, which I wasn't disappointed with. We had really built up the momentum from nothing. And the offset, we didn't have a program in place. We didn't have any policies in place. We didn't have any teams. We didn't have the employees. We didn't have the tools, the equipment to go and do these things. So it was a very busy year trying to get all of that stuff put together and ramp all of that stuff up. So, 65, 70% of the goal achievement, I was okay with. I was okay. No big deal. We're still moving in a positive direction. 2020 is going to be a great year. We'll finish reaching our goal in 2020 and move on, right? Well, the world had different plans for us in 2020.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened in 2020, did it? I'm joking.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's definitely a different game in 2020. And you do what you do. And fortunately, where we were in 2020, just me as a business owner, I'd come through the last 10, 12 years of some really high hurdles, some really massive obstacles financially, managerially, systematically. I mean, everything in our company has been stretched and battered from every angle for a long time. So I've fought a lot of battles and I've figured out how to adapt and overcome to things that are going on. And one thing that I got out of it was staying nimble was very important. Very important. So 2020 was what 2020 was, and we all did the best that we could moving through 2020. And fortunately, and by the grace of God, the timing of things that we had done in 2019 was enough to keep things rolling through 2020. In construction side, we had a good backlog of projects that, although saw some delays, we didn't see the stoppages. But we had also laid some good groundwork in the maintenance division, laid some good groundwork in the arbor division, got some clients that, we really started to reap some of that reward in 2020 where, the clients that we had in maintenance and arbor, they weren't going to stop maintaining their properties. Commercial clients, city clients, still working in that commercial realm, they weren't going to stop doing the maintenance. They still had to get that done. And it was nice being in the green industry. We weren't locked down and shut out like a lot of administrative type, retailers or restaurants where you got that non-essential. Now I'm sure they would argue with you on that, but we fortunately, again, by the grace of God, didn't have that restriction. We could still send our guys out to work. We could still keep our distances. We could still keep the cash flowing, so to speak. So we weren't hit as hard as some of the other industries were. And so we just, continued to grow and maintain through 2020 as best we could. Maintain was more of what we were doing rather than the growing part of what we were doing. But it really forced the world to do business differently. All business owners had to figure out how to do business in this new world. And one thing that we concluded through 2020 and into 21 was, the traditional model of a landscape business is a model, and it's not a bad model or a good model, or it's one version of a model of how to run a landscape business. And for us, I saw a different model suiting our company and better than the traditional model. The traditional model being a brick and mortar. You've got all the administration under one roof. You've got all the accounting. You've got all the the business administration piece of it, as well as the operation management piece of it, in one brick and mortar place. You've got one central yard. You've got everything is in one place, and everything is in one house, and everything is under one roof. And I started exploring the notion of getting rid of our brick and mortar type and breaking away from that traditional model and seeing what it would it look like if I subcontracted, or if I contracted out the HR and the payroll, which isn't terribly uncommon, it's not unknown, but also the bookkeeping and the accounts payable and the accounts receivable, and getting all the administrative out of the office, closing down the traditional administrative facility that we have, and moving the company into a cloud-based company. Having the managers work from home is a very common thing that people were doing. A lot of Zoom meetings like we're doing now, very commonplace in business now. So really changing the traditional model up and taking the same product outcome, but managing it and achieving it in a more virtual way. And so the more I looked into it, the more it made a lot of sense. The administrative piece of it, we ended up farming out and making that into our total administrative cost for our company now is a fixed rate of 3%. That's our administrative to run our business.
That's great.
Talking to other business owners and friends that yourself included, that's a really low number. That's a really low number. And to some degree, it's not to some degree, to a lot of degree, it's more of a fixed fee, fixed expense. Sorry, Robert. More of a fixed expense rather than being all in-house. It's more of a variable expense to some degree, with the administrative, with the employees and their needs and their benefits and their comings and their goings and their vacations, and then goes away with this new model. And it's ended up being a very good. The other plus that came from that is the caliber of personnel that I have in each of those seats is much higher than it would be. And I believe this is where a lot of the savings really comes from. It's a double-edged sword. I don't pay for the caliber the same amount that I would to get that level, that caliber of professional doing our payroll or doing our HR, or even that team as it is doing our HR, doing our payroll, or doing our accounting, our AP and our AR, because I'm not carrying the entire load. They don't spend their entire week on my work. They've got additional clients. Now it may be one other client, but now we're split. Now I'm carrying 50% of their load or 60% of the load, but their value, they're an $80, $90, $100,000 a year employee. They're
Right.
extremely efficient at their work.
Yeah, and they're probably knowledgeable about all the changes in laws and regulations and all that stuff. And just for clarity for the audience, it's not 3%. It's not just like your admin costs. I mean, it captures even things like a rent. I mean, this captures most of your overhead, correct?
Absolutely.
So a lot of people will struggle even to keep their overhead under 10%, and here you are running at 3%, correct?
Yeah. My overhead for my operations, we've got yards, but those yards I don't have. I bought Connex trailers. I got 40-foot Connexes with 10-foot offices in the end of them. We got power and water. We've just got yards strategically placed around the valley that our operations operate out of. So our operations teams, our maintenance division, our construction division, or whatever, they'll meet at the yard in the morning, they'll load up their material, and they'll head out. But the cost of renting, our average cost of rent on our 1 acre yards is $350 a month.
Right. And most people are paying 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, and this is 8 crews working out of the same acre. Right. 9 crews working on the same acre, and we've got multiple storage containers there. It's lit, it's secure, it's got running water, it's got power for the guys. there's an office trailer there that's in one of them. So the upfront expense to buy those trailers and get the yard outfitted is nothing. Plus, you've still got the asset. It's not reoccurring. The only thing there is the dirt.
Yeah.
So
No,
cost
that's
is really
great.
low.
Yeah, you highlighted three things there, and I just want to really emphasize them. So you said the three things that caught my attention were the fact that you're nimble. So here you are, there's all these things being hit at you, but you're able, because you've got such a low overhead, not a great deal of heavy lift there, you're able to be nimble to market conditions. So I think that's huge right there. The other thing you said was just the fact that you've been through some really challenging times. I mean, I met you some of that early stages when you were in a real cash crunch, and yeah, there was a lot of stress going on there. But the fact that you've been through that, I think it makes things a little bit easier now, and just that you're able to take more things in your stride. You've gone through a lot of the pain, so yeah, you'll still have challenges, but you'll take them a little bit more in your stride. And one of the things I talked about in one of my recent videos was I think there's so many people that are caught in being in that comfort zone.
Yeah.
We go through the drive-throughs, we get stuff delivered. There's nothing really challenging us. So when things come up, people tend to either panic or freak out or whatever. Whereas if you push yourself into that pain area every so often, really challenge yourself, then a lot of things that come up are a little bit easier for them to handle.
Right.
I talk about that, my Ironman training or some of the places I've been to, Kilimanjaro, whatever. But, you put yourself into that uncomfortable place, and yeah, other, things come up on a day-to-day basis, which they do, then they're easier to handle.
Right.
And there's a third thing, which I've now forgotten, but I think just the fact that you were able to analyze the market, you were able to listen to people, advisors, and say, hey, get into maintenance, let's make that shift, looking at the cash flow, where do you want to be in 10, 15 years in terms of making your business more valuable. A lot of owners don't necessarily are open to listening. They think they know everything. So the fact that you're able to listen, and so I think that's key as well.
Well, you've definitely been a major asset in my success over the years, and just been a great sounding board as a friend, but also as a trusted advisor, especially opening up the maintenance divisions. I mean, that's a world that I didn't come from. I never worked for a company that had a maintenance division. I mowed my own grass. That was it,
Right.
and but making that all work, and all the employees and all the equipment and everything that is required to run a successful maintenance division. And I leaned on you very heavily on that. And you're an extreme asset in helping me make sure that was avoid a lot of pitfalls, in building that system and that structure, and getting that ball rolling. So for that, I'm definitely in your gratitude forever.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate that. So what does the future look like for OSM? I mean, you've obviously built a great model, low overheads, you're nimble. I know you're picking up some work all the time, but I mean, what does it look like in terms of expansion into other markets? Maybe, if you start acquiring companies and they stripped out a lot of their overheads and made it more of a virtual model, I mean, that's surely must be on your mind. How do I take OSM regionally or even across the nation?
Yeah, I'm quickly trying to think of what I want to put out on your podcast. I kind of hate to let the cat out of the bag, but I don't think it's a singular thought I've got. But because we're so nimble, and I've told you this before, because we're so nimble, our business model is very adaptable to other businesses, and everybody in the industry knows, and a lot of industries as it is right now, there's a lot of acquisitions that are going on, and for multiple reasons, I think. But for me personally, acquisitions is a key part of our growth strategy in the coming years, along with organic growth, along with certainly direct business development efforts on in-house sales, but also acquisitions is a part of, I'd say, probably 50% of our growth. It's a large part of our projected growth in the maintenance division, Arbor division. I'm looking very heavily at acquisitions because I think there's a layer of business owners in our industry that are overlooked because of their lack of size. And what makes them attractive to me and my business model is they're operating the way a lot of us in the industry started out. They're operating out of their house. They're doing a lot of the administrative themselves. They might have 15, 20, 30 employees. They might have one or two people in their office that are really running all the office admin management for them. And they're getting burned out, and they're finding that their earning capacity is getting tapped out at a certain level, and they're not sure how they want to grow, and it's causing stress within their family. It's causing stress in their marriage. It's more stressful than they actually want to take on personally. It's more of a beast than they really realized. Perhaps they started out in the field as on the operations side, said, I'm going to open up my own business, and then soon realized there's a whole other profession associated with running your own business, aside from the operational profession, that they're not familiar with, that they don't understand, that they're getting themselves burnt out on. And 1 to 3 million annual revenue range in maintenance, and look at picking them up, because regardless of where they are in the valley or in the state of Arizona or even in other states, my administrative team can take on all of their administrative needs. Most of them are a QuickBook-based company. I've kept my business QuickBooks based to be more adaptive. QuickBooks is the accounting software that most everybody uses. Small businesses anyways that uses, and I can come alongside them and afford them the opportunity to either sell out completely or sell me a major share of the company. I take ownership share. I take 51%, but they can still have ownership shares in the existing company, but focus all their time and attention on what they do best. And that's typically the operation side of things, going out, meeting the clients, making sure that the jobs are getting done on time, making sure the teams need what they have what they need to get the jobs done. And they can stay in that capacity. They can still get the benefits of some of the benefits of the ownership piece of it if they want to stay in, but they get rid of that piece of it that they don't have the experience with. They don't have the know-how. They don't have the time or the finances to get to that level to be able to run the company administratively well, so that they can grow, so that they can see that growth, so that they can do what they always wanted to do, but realize they're not tooled to do it. So I'm looking for companies that are kind of in that financial range, in that kind of situation, and we'll go in there and we do exactly what we've done with our own company. We'll look at their brick and mortar. It's not in our interest to get rid of any of their administrative staff. A lot of times we find that one key person that they had doing their accounts payable, their accounts receivable, is a great liaison between our administrative team, because they speak that language. Our administrative staff, payroll, HR, accounts receivable, accounts payable, they've got the intimate knowledge of the clients of that company already. Who are their primary clients? Who are their contacts? What's the communication look like? And they've also got the intimate knowledge of what the operations look like. Who's the employee force? Who's the employee pool look like? Who are they? What do they do? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And so we actually end up using them as a manager to be the liaison between the companies. And it's proven to be very effective, and we can move into a situation like that a lot of times immediately cut the overhead by 10-15%, just by allowing them to all of a sudden start applying their administrative needs get taken over by the corporate company. Additionally, they get additional buying power. So with the buying power that we have at OSM. These smaller companies don't necessarily buy the volume of materials that we buy. So now all of a sudden they're buying material, so their profits are going up on their jobs. And there's a lot of things that really benefit these companies in the long run. So we're interested in buying a majority shares or buying up the companies outright. That's a big part of our growth strategy. As far as diversification as well, though, we've still got a very healthy and robust construction department. And across all of our divisions, arbor, construction, water management, and maintenance, our client base is something that we monitor quite heavily, and we're pushing into new markets as well. We like the multi-year contracts that public cities, states, counties, federal agencies put out. There's additional paperwork that goes along with those, but we've got the administrative staff to do that. And we've got the know-how. And so we're pushing into those. We're pushing into, not pushing into, but definitely still working in the private sector. But we feel that the state sectors, the federal sectors, the public sectors are going to be areas and clients that are going to have cash flow regardless of, come hell or high water to some degree, more so than maybe a private commercial or even residential. We really don't do any residential anymore. So we're pushing into, we're trying to broaden our client base. We're not just, private commercial. I think that's one that's important, but I think that's one that dried up. We saw them dry up, took about a year. Residential died overnight, 2008.
Yeah.
Commercial looked like it dried up in about 12, 13 months in that 2008 period. And then we saw again what happened with COVID. That was a whole completely different
that's crazy.
Nest of problems. But there were some similarities in those markets and how strong they were during those two major times that we've gone through. And COVID was a big indicator for that public side. They started printing cash like it was water, which is a whole different topic unto itself and a whole different discussion unto itself. But the reality is the cash was still flowing from the private sectors and from the public sectors, from the cities, from the states, from the feds. They were pumping cash in. We're also looking at some different private contractors. I'm in my truck right now. I'm on site on a project that we're doing for Tesla. We started taking our construction company and pressing into specifically Tesla and what they're doing because of their manufacturing. They do all their own in-house engineering. They do all their own in-house manufacturing of their switch gears. Switch gears is something that you can't get for commercial projects right now. You're looking at anywhere from 6 to 18 months to get a switch gear. And anybody who knows anything about construction, you're not powering anything without a switch gear. So that's a big vulnerability in the rest of the construction market that Tesla seems to have a workaround on. They do all their own in-house. So
good to get into that. So I need to wrap up here, Charlie, but people are interested in chatting to you more about maybe reducing their overhead or maybe even you've perked their interest about maybe acquiring their company. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to our website, osmaz.com, and our contact information is on our website. You can call me directly. I'll give you my cell number. It's 623-302-8508. You can call me directly and talk to me about it, or you can send me an email at charles@osmaz.com and let me know what's on your mind, and love to have a chat with you. We can talk and see if something fits, or if you've just got some ideas, you're trying to make some moves in your own company. I didn't get here alone, and I'd be happy to share whatever information that I might have that might help you where you're at, whether we do business together or not. Robert's been a great asset you guys can get a hold of Robert. You can also get a hold of me through Robert, I'm sure. He's a wealth of information for me in these acquisitions. So he's somebody that I utilize as a sounding board, as a team member as well. So there's a number of ways you can get a hold of me.
Cool. Charlie, as always, been a pleasure talking to you again. You've been a wealth of information. Just talking through your story is just really, I think it's going to help a lot of people. So again, thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person. Enjoy your travels, and I'm sure I'll be in touch with you. Cool. Thank you, Charlie.
Take care.
Okay, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully that was pure, dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkenbeard, and we'd love to get you and your friends to join us in our future journey. So please subscribe through the various podcast channels, or visit thecommerciallandscaper.com or brucewilsoncompany.com and check out some more information there. Anyway, hopefully you all have a pure, dead brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.